because we are living in a mathematical universe. And I love you. I want you to know that you are sacred. You are here with a purpose. Each person has a purpose. And if you don't find out your purpose in this reincarnation, you may come until you find it. My purpose here is to do spiritual work and work with the nutrition. And I am grateful that my mother gave me that mandate before she left decades ago.
Who are some of your
join,
teachers that the audience will recognize coming up? Some of your elders, some of the names of individuals in your life. Your mother, your father.
My mother, Amos Bush, my ancestor Amos Bush, ancestor Cheney Kennedy Bush, my late husband, Baba Olatunji, my late son, Kwame Olatunji, Eula Mae Bridges, Theodore Bridges, Dr. M.P. Gilmer, his wife, Bessie Gilmer, George Kennedy, taught me the love of out of doors. And there are so many others. Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, which I had the privilege to walk and talk with. I had the privilege to walk and talk with Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, that we went to his house in Gracie Court every Sunday, and every Monday the president would get letters and telegrams from this women's group, because we were fighting police brutality back there 50 years ago. And I was one of the young ladies in that group, and we still have some of them who are still living. James Baldwin was a teacher of mine, but these are the people that I had the pleasure. Osajifo Kwame Nkrumah, the musician Fela in Nigeria. All of these were people whose lives have changed history. And Mary Church Terrell, that I sat with her at the lunch counters in Washington, D.C. in 1952 to desegregate the lunch counters. And there are so many others. Dr. George Washington Carver, because my guardian was his personal secretary at Tuskegee Institute, and Henrietta Levi, my teacher, Almeda Garland Smith Wilkerson, Henrietta Levi, did I call her name? John
Yes.
Morrow, and many others at Talladega College. Dr. Hilda A. Davis.
You're noted for bringing the clothing. I wanted to talk about that a little bit too. The African gear, African garb.
No, it's not African garb.
Thank you for correcting me.
It's our African. Do you call this your garb? It's our national dress. This is.
You popularized that in this country?
Yes, my late sister and ancestor Abby Lincoln said, Amy, we had the afro before they named it, which is the truth. We had our hair in its natural state, and then later a name was given to it, the afro. Then we locked our hair, which is the way Samson wore his hair. So if you want to know the style of my hair now, read in the Bible, and you can go to see how Samson's hair was.
You in the 60s, you had an important venue in Harlem.
We started the first African school in America in Harlem, 125th Street and Madison Avenue.
And out of this came a lot of out of this came a lot of successful artists, and people of the community from you having this venue on 125th Street early on, the school?
One of the ancestors who became an ancestor within the last week was ancestor Baina Abdul Sabur, who became a very well-known African designer of African clothing. And that was all that she did in her lifetime, besides rear 3 beautiful prints and be the grandmother for very wonderful grandchildren who are important track stars and sports stars and scholars.
And these are students of yours that came out of your Harlem school, your first school up in Harlem that you created back in the 60s.
Yes, we need to give our children responsibility. My children had the responsibility to prepare one dinner per week, each of them. Everyone who eats needs to know food preparation, and they need to be taught how to prepare. Ancestor Alma John was one of my mentors. She came to our school and said, you're not selling anything here that you need to collect loud money for. And I had little buttons to say, I am African, I speak Yoruba, I speak Swahili, and just to get our people accustomed to hearing the African names. Ancestor Shirley Graham Dubois, Ancestor Essie Robeson, Ancestor Paul Robeson were people that, Ancestor John Henry Clark are people that I had the honor to walk and talk with.
Could you briefly tell us, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Could you briefly tell us about the struggle that happened here in America for South Africa? You are noted for being one of the persons on the front line of that struggle to free South Africa. You want to talk briefly a little bit about that before we close?
Well, the big concert that was held in Harvard Stadium in 1979 was a very historic concert, because the ones who organized that concert brought Bob Marley there to the concert, and he played in Harvard Square. And also Baba Olatunji. Baba Olatunji stopped traffic on Broadway, and once he stopped traffic on Broadway, he never traveled back to Nigeria, because that upset the financial arrangement in South Africa with the World Bank and many other institutions. We need to check our institutions out. We need to check out the current wars and all wars. Wars are made to make the rich people rich, because they are the ones who are selling all of the equipment for war. How many of us have a contract for toilet tissue in a school? How many of us, suppose my non-profit organization, the Olatunji International School for Life Learning, had a contract just to sell pencils to the New York City school system, or to sell erasers, or sell paper. All of these contracts are being given out to the community, so we are the enablers for people to become millionaires at our expense. And what are we getting from it? We've got to retrain our young people. I appreciate the internet. I am computer illiterate, because the greatest computer that was ever made was this one. And there's something else on the horizon that is going to take place of the computer, just like the computer took the place of the radio and the television took place of the radio. There will be other advancements. that will take place.